Hey everybody, Chris here, and today I want to do sort of a rambly, kind of spitbally video about Sony's strategy with the PlayStation 5 and maybe their strategy moving forward versus what Xbox is doing, and to try and answer the question of, does Sony need a service like Game Pass, or are they okay really just focusing on trying to develop the very best exclusive games and letting that sort of drive their platforms? Hey, as always, if you're enjoying the video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up and please be sure to subscribe. So I'll just sort of lay it out there up front, about how I feel about what Sony's doing. So I think, obviously they've got great games. You think about things like Horizon Zero Dawn, which isn't necessarily my favorite game. In fact, I couldn't get very far in it, but it's been a success for them, and I am going to check out the new one once it releases to try and give it sort of another shake as a franchise. But again, it's been a huge success for them. You think about God of War, you think about Uncharted. They really have done a good job with sort of, creating this image of themselves as having really the best sort of AAA exclusive games. And I think that they do. If you compare what Xbox has done over the years with what Sony's doing, Xbox isn't quite there yet, but they're getting there, and they've made a lot of moves to get there. If you think about the acquisition of Bethesda and sort of what they're planning to do there with things like Starfield, what they're potentially going to do with Elder Scrolls, that potentially being an Xbox exclusive, that's not confirmed yet, but more than likely, I think a lot of people are seeing that as the future. You think about what could be going on with Fallout in the future. They're making moves to try and position themselves to compete with what Sony has done, over the years. They also, of course, have things like Fable, and then obviously Halo Infinite coming very soon, hopefully. So again, they're putting themselves in the right position to do what they need to do to sort of say to their competition, look, I have exclusive games too. Now this doesn't even, touch, in my opinion, what Nintendo does. I still think Nintendo has the best first-party games. A lot of people think that they sort of reiterate and do the same kind of things over and over again with Mario and Zelda, but I think what they do is find ways to sort of recreate their titles and make them interesting again, while also being as high quality as anyone could imagine. But that's neither here nor there. We're talking about Sony and Microsoft. Currently, what Sony has done is sort of opted to lean on their PS Plus collections, their best sellers, to try and drive sort of this idea that, yes, look, we are giving you some free games, some great games in the same way that Microsoft is doing. And so if you're a PSN subscriber, you can go onto your PS5, and I assume your PS4 Pro as well if you have one, and download things like Ratchet and Clank, God of War, all sort of their big kind of first-party games that are out there. And I think right now there's a collection of maybe 15 to 20 games that are part of that. I could be grossly off the mark there, but I think that's accurate. I think the struggle for a lot of people, though, is that most people have played those games, right? I mean, you buy a PlayStation to play those games, so for a lot of people, there's not really a huge benefit in sort of seeing them show up again in sort of a Game Pass-ish configuration, even though that's not exactly what it is. But again, the question here is, does Sony need something like Game Pass in order to be successful? I think Xbox is playing the long game, and Sony is sticking to a strategy that has served them well over the years. But I think ultimately, and this is just my opinion, obviously this is all speculation and done for the sake of discussion, I do think eventually, ultimately, Sony is going to need something like Game Pass to stay relevant. Now, that's not to say that Sony is going to disappear anytime soon. Of course, the PlayStation has a huge fan base. It's got a lot of loyalty. It's got a lot of goodwill after what it's done with the PS4 and PS4 Pro, which it should. Those are great systems. But I think what Phil Spencer and Microsoft are doing are really sort of shaking things up. They're giving you the best value proposition that I think has ever been seen in video games. And eventually, that's the kind of thing that Sony just can't keep ignoring. I think that what they're going to do probably is to continue to add some games here and there to, PSN subscribers in the form of this PS Plus collection. Maybe they'll sort of go above and beyond that, but either they're going to have to try, I think, eventually and broker some kind of deal with Microsoft to bring Game Pass onto PlayStation platforms, which I personally don't think is going to happen. I could see that being a more feasible thing with Nintendo potentially down the line, just because of sort of that buddy-buddy partnership that Microsoft and Nintendo have going. But I think PlayStation, is sticking to, again, what they know works, but that's not going to be a long-term solution if they want to be the console leader, 10 years down the line, let's say. Now, never underestimate Sony. I mean, obviously, they are, in my opinion, a gaming behemoth because they do make great games. They do create systems that people love and enjoy. And again, it's sort of that, I think, brand loyalty that sort of goes from one generation to the next that has sort of built them up into what they are now. they're not going to go away anytime soon, right? They're going to succeed. It's just a matter of how long are they going to succeed and what are they going to have to do to stay current and relevant. Again, right now, at least, from my perspective, it feels like Microsoft is on the best trajectory that somebody could imagine for them. Again, Phil Spencer, I think, is doing everything he can to position Microsoft to really sort of lead the charge when it comes to, what gaming can do and accomplish in terms of cost, in terms of availability of games for people who want to have sort of a large sampling of things to look at, but also in terms of having great first-party games. Again, Bethesda is part of Microsoft now. There are a lot of other great games that are on the horizon. No pun intended. I think I used that in another video, that joke, so just ignore me if I did. A lot of great games on the horizon for Microsoft, so I think they're going to get there. Anyway, those are just my thoughts. I do think eventually Sony's going to have to maybe shake up their perspective on things and maybe their general approach to things, but I'm curious about how you feel when it comes to whether or not Sony needs something like Game Pass. If you think they do, let me know in the comments below, but if you think that they don't, let me know that too. Let's have a little bit of discussion about it. As always, thanks for watching, and I hope everyone's doing well and staying safe.